Well, as South Africa has now come to that time where the country goes to the polls for the 6th democratic general election on Wednesday, and of course the special vote starting today, political parties have been busy with a schedule of manifestos, campaigning, as well as rallies around the country, culminating, of course, over the weekend with the DA when they held their weekend win rally in Soweto on Saturday. Yesterday, ANC supporters attending the Siyanqoba rally in Ellis Park, and the EFF gathered at the Orlando Stadium in Soweto for their final rally. Political analyst Sandile Swana joins us now for more. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you so much, Sakina.
So a lot has happened. We've heard the manifestos, we've seen the rallies, and there's been quite a bit in between as well. So what have you made of all of this?
I think it's a sign that the political landscape is extremely competitive. I think this is the first time since I think 5 years ago when we started to see any rallies, political rallies that could come anywhere near rivaling what the ANC can do, being the two big EFF rallies we've seen in the past 5 years. This one, the last one, and the previous one. So the landscape is changing, and I think the ANC is aware that Gauteng province and every other political party is aware that Gauteng province is up in the air.
So looking at these rallies, and over the years we've come to interrogate them a little more, because do they actually give us an indication of where the electorate is at? Do they actually give us a real sense of how people would actually vote on election day?
My short answer would be no. What these rallies are, bear in mind that it is the loyalists, the activists who get into buses and go to the stadium. The people who are already converted. But the people who are not converted are not the ones who are at the stadium. It's not a sign. It's not as if new people are coming to the stadium. So to me, those rallies, you can say by showing the capacity to host a rally like that, we are probably saying that, hey, I'm strong enough to run this country. Come and vote for me.
So we also hear that there's quite a significant number of South Africans who are undecided still about which way to vote. What does that tell us about the parties, their electioneering campaigns, and of course the way South Africans, the electorate, are viewing this election?
I would like to just take a step back on that one, because this issue of people who are undecided, I don't think it tells us much. But I was actually a little bit amazed to look at what has happened to the support mainly of the ruling party. In 1994, when we voted for the first time, the province that gave us the most votes for the ruling party was Limpopo at 91%. But since 1994, it has declined, consistently declined. It has never gone anywhere near that. And three provinces, being KZN, and Northern Cape and Western Cape, actually never voted for the ANC. So here in Gauteng, at best, the ANC in 1994 achieved about 53%. Today, they are below the 1994 level. So these people who are called undecided voters, I don't know why we say they are undecided right now.
And that's going to be an interesting one because maybe they're exercising their right to keep their vote a secret. Who knows? But,
yeah.
You know, we are at that time, so we'll know sooner rather than later. But, you know, speaking of numbers and the changing fortunes of the ANC, let's just take a look at some recent surveys that have been done by Ipsos, as well as the Institute for Race Relations, and what they've come up with. And just to indicate, because when we talk about these things, it's important just to indicate that they do state what their margin of error could be. Ipsos saying there's about 2%, 2.8% margin of error for the IRR and their survey. So this is what they are telling us. So Ipsos is saying, if you look at the EFF, they both go and talk about the EFF and the fact that the EFF is expected to grow, at least double its support from when it started out in 2014. So the significance of that.
You see the significance of this. This is very serious right now at least two levels that one can talk about. One is the national level, where the ANC is probably fallen below the 1994 level, and the same in Gauteng, at a national level and in Gauteng. Now, the growth of the EFF is very simple. where are the votes that go to the EFF? Where are they coming from? Somebody is losing those votes. Whichever way however you want to sweeten it, somebody is losing those votes. And I think the ANC is becoming aware that those votes are probably coming from them. And also you must be aware that all these parties, the smaller parties that are popping up all the vote, they create more confusion for people and create more options for people, and people don't vote in the traditional way.
So just a reminder, 6.4% is what the EFF polled in 2014. And according to Ipsos, they are predicting that the EFF will grow to 11%. And the Institute for Race Relations saying they're putting it at between 14 and 15%. But also significant there is that they say this, of course, will, looking at where the DA is, put the EFF within striking distance of the DA and possibly garnering greater support to replacing the DA as official opposition. What do you make of that? And of course, also the DA and what they are expected to do.
When the EFF popped up on the scene, I raised the question, is the EFF going to replace the DA or the ANC? In the rally this weekend, if I may just touch on that, Malema made it clear that he wants to replace the ANC. He wants to be the governing party. Now, that is a matter of time. Whether it's 2029 or when it will happen, it's another issue, but it's there. The DA has the problem that maybe it's not picking enough votes from the black townships, which is necessary for any party that will ever be a serious player in South African politics. You need to be able to attract votes from the black townships. And I think the DA will struggle with that between the ANC and the EFF. The EFF is succeeding in that field.
So talking about that, the balance of power then becomes important in places, provinces like Gauteng, provinces like the Western Cape. Gauteng will become particularly interesting because they have placed the ANC to, decline marginally nationally. But of course, we saw what happened in Gauteng in, the latest, the provincial government, the local government elections, the municipal elections. So what are your predictions in that regard?
No, I wouldn't want to offer any predictions there. I tried to predict that Trump will not win against Hillary, and I lost that one, so let me leave that alone. So what I think some of us forget is that if, let's say, the ANC has got 53% majority in Gauteng, or even 54%, the fight is about 5%. It's not about the 50%, the 53%. It's just about 5% to get them below 50%, and the game is on. And in these current circumstances, it is quite likely that between the EFF, the DA, and to a certain lesser degree, the UDM, because I saw that the UDM was also very active here. I think, whether you like it or not, I think there is some form of understanding that Gauteng is up there for the taking.
So the DA, let's talk about them, because again, there's talk of a lot of coalitions having to be set up. We've had a sense of what could possibly happen with these coalitions, given the outcome of the municipal elections. In the national sense, what do you think those coalitions could possibly look like? Is it possible that we could have, even at a national level, coalitions running the country?
I think at provincial level, I suspect that at national level, the ANC will still have enough majority by itself, even if that majority is in the 50s. I suspect that is the case. However, I suspect also that Cyril Ramaphosa may want to appoint a cabinet that is more representative of the South African population based on merit. In other words, he may not just choose cabinet members only from the ANC. If he wants to have a workable way forward. Speaking
of, and Julius Malema made special mention of the fact that President Cyril Ramaphosa offered him and Floyd Shivambu ministerial posts.
Yes, he did that, and I think that on the basis of the strength of the EFF in the elections, there are certain negotiations they can enter into with the ANC, and I think Malema is trying to tell the public as well that, look, Ramaphosa is open to this idea. And probably, let me add my other opinion on this, that probably the EFF will want ministries in the finance.
But with that said, and this has to be my final question to you, do you think that this is an idea that will fly in the ANC?
it can fly, bearing in mind that right now the ANC is fighting for its own survival. The local government elections are in 2 years' time from now. So how you treat people now, it will determine what happens in 24 months' time again. So you have to try and have a strategy for long-term survival. Arrogance, the time for arrogance is over.
And just the final one, the cabinet that the president has to appoint. He, of course, is under tremendous pressure for the reasons you've just stated, but also because he needs to follow through on that sentiment of reclaiming the ANC and cleansing the ANC of undesirable elements, if you will. So how does he navigate that space?
I think the priority for the nation is that he needs to reclaim the government, so that the government is run professionally and independently, because we are not all members of the ANC. What affects us all is a state that is captured.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Much more political analysis this week and looking at how it all stacks up. And thanks to our political analyst, Sandile Swana, for assisting us looking at some of the things that happen over the electioneering period and also some of the predictions that have been put out by some of the surveys that have come through. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, of course, we'll go over to Leanne and carry on with certain predictions, more predictions, as it were, of what is to come this week.